I don't have a guest this afternoon. Usually in the afternoons when I upload these videos from the studio, unless I'm actually showing you something specific, which I will be in a moment, then I just do my monologue downstairs. But normally in the afternoons I record with amazing guests, as you would have noticed on my show. And thank you very much for watching, by the way, and thank you very much for those that have donated, those that have subscribed, those that have given me super chats and all of that. Really appreciate it. There's so many of you. And, of course, all those wonderful people who have, those people who have emailed me as well. Couldn't do this show without you. Just want to make that clear. So I don't have a guest this afternoon, but I have me. So I thought it'd be nice just to have a bit of a chat this afternoon. I am, in fact, my own guest. How about that? Makes a change, doesn't it? So what have you got to say for yourself, Richard? Well, not a lot, really. Actually, it all came because one of my correspondents sent me an article. I thought, actually, it'd be quite interesting to go through that and have a look at it, because I met up with some people earlier today. They were keen to sort of meet me and talk about potential guests for the show that they have contacts with, which is very nice. So thank you very much for that. And what came about, one of the questions is, Richard, what do you foresee is coming next? And I think all of us are becoming, we're all going on to online, aren't we, onto these retailer sites, and we're buying these crystal balls so that we can look into them and go, yes, the next thing is coming. Well, we're told that there's going to be, we're warned, let's put it like that. We have to be very careful with our conditioning our terms on this so that we keep within the terms and conditions of whatever the platform is. But we've been told, have we not, that there is very likely to be another pandemic, and we've got to be a bit careful about it. So with that in mind, what could it possibly be? And this is where this correspondent actually sent me this, and I thought it would be interesting to have a look. Let's have a little gander. Here it is, this report here, which is from Mercola, Mercola.com, mercola.com. Thank you very much for sending this in. And this is an analysis by Dr. Joseph Mercola. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it says here, as you can see, the report predicts next pandemic will come from meat. Meat. Seems to me that's an obvious step now, because it seems that animals are the big problem, are they not? Animals, they have flatulence, and some of their flatulence is causing the earth to warm up. Because after all, we were told, were we not, that July, it's the 2nd of August as I record this, and it's wet and miserable out there. But apparently July, and I've mentioned this to a few people and they've laughed at me, has apparently been the hottest July for, wait for it, 120,000 years. I thought we'd had an ice age at some point. Didn't we have an ice age? But it was very hot in July then, but not as hot as it is now. This has been the hottest for such a long time. So, bit barking really, but anyway, so meat, this is the story is, of course, we've got to get rid of animals, because animals are farms, particularly those farms, those cows, those beef, those pigs, those sheep. We've got to get rid of meat. That seems to be the narrative that we're hearing constantly. So let's have another look at this. So there's a video here, but here it is. This is the story, it says at a glance. I'll just read some of it. The idea that pathogens will jump species and kill humans is a useful scare tactic, and it's now being pushed like never before under One Health, the global agenda that will allow unelected bureaucrats at the World Health Organization to central power and make decisions relating to diet, agriculture, livestock farming, environmental pollution, movement of populations, healthcare, and much more for the entire world. After all of these things are bad, it would seem, particularly meat. But let's get on to the actual nuts and bolts of it. Here we go. A report from Harvard Law School and York University predicts the next pandemic is likely to emerge from the US meat supply, or the fur trade, or a petting zoo, or from pets themselves. It reveals that all the different areas of life and commerce that involve animal and human contact and the subsequent hypothetical zoonotic transmission chains. This is where it's all going to come from. One Health documents are repeatedly, if I can say it, which I can't, referenced in the report. We saw that bird flu was supposed to be it, wasn't it? Bird flu. We were sort of given planting the seed that birds might carry something. It might get into the wildlife. It might get onto ticks. You go for a countryside walk and the tick bites you. You know, a great big tick the size of, well, less than the size of a small thumbnail and or fingernail. Bites you. You know, in the past it was supposed to be Lyme disease, but now it'll be something more catastrophic and will pass into the human chain and we'll all die in a horrible agonizing death. Didn't we hear that story once before? And didn't we get some medical intervention for it? I believe we did. It's so difficult because, do you know what? We humans, we don't have a memory, do we? We can't remember 3 years ago when we were all locked up in our houses. We can't remember 2 years ago when a miracle cure, people had worked so hard to give us a medical intervention and sort of got a bit shaky afterwards. Anyway, let's have a look at what zoonotic transmission is all about. According to this particular article, it says zoonotic transmission is not the threat it's made out to be. Well, that's reassuring. The fact of the matter is that zoonotic transmission is extremely rare, and most, if not all, global pandemics with lethal outcomes can be traced back to lab experiments. As just one example, the USA Today recently reiterated the debunked claim that the 2013 Ebola outbreak in West Africa was caused by an infected bushmeat. Actually, that seems to be wrong. Another widely circulated hypothesis is that it emerged from infected bats. Heard that story? Pangolas come to mind. Pangolas. Yes, it's always these species that are in animals and somehow, quite remarkably, they leap to humans. We just have to remind ourselves, animals and humans have been in coexistence for, well, quite some time. And whilst, yes, only recently we've got aeroplanes and boats that go around the world in huge numbers, people did travel about. We did have the pandemic, the Black Plague. We did have that. That was a genuine thing. Well, as far as I know, the world has gone like that. Who knows whether that was a genuine thing? Maybe that was a psyop, as they call it. But that's the thing. Is it meat? Is meat going to be blamed as the next pandemic? Oh, somebody will eat something, they'll get ill, it'll be in the food chain, and before you know it. So here's the thing. Here's the thing as I understand it. Are you trusting the meat you buy in the supermarkets? In fact, are you trusting any of the big branded food that you buy in the supermarket? Are you buying the highly processed stuff that's got loads of chemicals on it that keeps it supposedly fresh and full of goodness, even though the way it's been farmed may not actually have any minerals or vitamins or nutrients in it whatsoever? So how it can suddenly magically have them? Oh yes, we shovel in all these extra chemicals to help put in the nutrients that the fungicide, the pesticides and the herbicides and the modified grains that were grown, or the modified food that was grown to the cattle or the sheep or the pigs, that also have been injected with goodness knows what sort of things to make their growth grow, or to get them big, hormones, treatments and antibiotics and heaven knows what else in there. Are you buying that kind of meat? Are you still going to the supermarket, buying these big favoured brands? Or are you, like me, as much as possible, going to farm shops, going to smaller, localised outlets, artisan bakeries, for example? Are you asking them, where do you get your grain from? Where do you get your wheat? Where do you get your rye, or whatever kind of type it is? How are you making your pies? How are you making your food? Where does it come from? Those animals I see at the farm at the back, are they the ones that are slaughtered? Are they grass-fed? Are you dealing with antibiotics in them? Are they organic? Are you actually questioning those things that you put into your mouth? That's the question I'm asking you. Are you doing that? Are you taking back control of what goes into your body, or are you just trusting those people who will prepare food for you? Are you buying the TV dinners, or are you buying those wonderful organic veg boxes that you can get and actually preparing the food yourself? Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but Richard, I can't afford it. It's expensive. It is expensive, it's true. And real food costs. I mean, if you go back in time, people spent most of their lives on growing food and eating food, and that was it. They'd had very little else. You know, it was all about working the land to grow the food, and that was it. Food was a luxury. People didn't have very much. Didn't have televisions and mobile phones and cars and things like that. Most people had so little, and they spent all their money, such as they would earn, or their labour, on food. And it seems that these days we've sort of lost our way a little bit here by thinking, oh yeah, these people over here who do not have our best interest at heart, really just want to make a lot of money, are preparing stuff which they're calling food. They've got nice pretty boxes, it looks nice, and perhaps they put some artificial smelly stuff on there, chemicals to make it smell like it's food, good odour, and you go, that smells nice, and it's very quick to be cooked and eaten and all of that, very fast. But is it actually doing me any good? Is it aging me prematurely? Is it affecting my organs? Is it slowly killing me softly with its chemicals? Is it really good for me or you? And that's the question. Maybe we should actually be treating food with so much more respect than we are. Instead of that thing that we just gobble up and get on with other things, maybe we should be thinking, actually, this is probably one of the most important things that we do in a day, is assessing where our food comes from, what it is, and how likely it is to be healthy for us to keep us going. Now, I'm not saying that the food, big branded food or corporate food from the supermarkets are going to knock you out just like that. But it's the continual lack of good nutrients, the continual poisoning of low-level chemicals. Who knows what heavy metals are in those food? Who knows what strange pesticides and all sorts of other chemicals are still latent in that food? The more we can actually grow it ourselves, the more we can have friends that grow it, or the more we rely on small-scale, localized farms that you can see how they treat their animals or how they grow their things, the better it is. The more we're focused ourselves in the food that we eat, we can avoid these sort of nonsense about the next pandemic's going to be in the food or in the drink or anything like that, because we can actually take back control for ourselves and say, do you know what? I'm not going to eat it. We're not going to eat it. Even though, as it said here, zoonotic, however that's pronounced, transmissions are not the threat they're made out to be, because they're extremely rare. So look, it just goes here is some other information. It says the idea that pathogens will jump species. Here we go. Look, this is the bit I'm reading. The pathogens will jump species and kill humans is a useful scare tactic. However, it's now being pushed like never before under the One Health, a global agenda that will allow unelected bureaucrats at the World Health Organization to centralize power and make decisions relating to diet, agriculture, and livestock farming, environmental pollution, movement of populations, healthcare, and much more in the entire world. So there we go. Reports predicts next pandemic may come from meat. What do you think? Are you taking back as much control of what you eat and your body than ever before? Are you being serious about it? Are you concentrating on the nutrients? Are you getting quality supplements, for example? Or are you just not bothered, going to the supermarket as normal and allowing them to feed you with whatever they decide to stick into your body? Be interested in the comments. Hope you've enjoyed my afternoon chat. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon with more monologues and wonderful guests.